Welcome back. A privacy controversy over reporters at Bloomberg having access to data via the famous Bloomberg terminal on those who pay $20,000 a year to use those terminals. The company is private, but the story now becoming very public. Kayla Tausche with the very latest on this developing story. Kayla.
Maria, a private company, but a behemoth nonetheless. An empire over $20 billion, all stemming from that Bloomberg terminal, an all-knowing financial data machine and a permanent fixture on Wall Street. Founder and now Mayor Michael Bloomberg started the company in 1981 as a hub for traders. As the company expanded the trading hub to things like government analytics and credit research, it also added a newswire, a broadcast unit, and 2 magazines. So the wall separating the newsroom and the sales floor had some cracks. That's how what the New York Times says was hundreds of the company's 2,400 journalists engaged in a practice of looking up confidential data for users of the terminals to break stories. And now news in the Financial Times this afternoon saying that thousands of those private messages between terminal users has made their way online. But as for the journalists using that confidential data, editor-in-chief Matt Winkler called that practice at least inexcusable, but not alarming. The mayor, meanwhile, has ceded his control and placed his stake in a blind trust, but seemed unaware of the concern when our Bertha Coombs saw him at a press conference this morning.
Mayor Bloomberg, do you think it was a violation of users' trust for reporters to have access to proprietary information at Bloomberg News?
Miss, I don't know what you're talking about. You have to talk to the company. I can't discuss
Well, it was under your watch that it began.
Miss, thank you very much for your generous question. Thank you all.
I guess that's one alternative to no comment. Maria?
All right, thanks a lot, Kayla. Well, of course, it was going to come up with the mayor speaking out. The Bloomberg snooping incident is raising the debate once again over expectations of privacy in this electronic world. It seems in today's world, online world, it is more of a quaint idea than an expectation. Tom Gorman of Dorsey and Whitney says the lack of privacy is the price we pay for living in the digital age, period. But Ron Geffner of Sadis and Goldberg says if you're paying for technology, you should expect to have some privacy. They are former SEC attorneys who used the Bloomberg terminal when they worked for the agency. Good to see you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So, Tom, in the wake of the Bloomberg breach, you say we shouldn't expect to have any privacy in this digital age.
No, I think that when you in the digital age that you lose some privacy. Think about it in simple terms. You take a walk up the street, people see you. You don't have an expectation of privacy that nobody's going to see you. That doesn't mean they know where you're going. It doesn't mean they know what you think. It doesn't mean they know what your plans are. Here, the question, it goes deeper. You sign onto the internet, you lose some privacy. No doubt about it. That's the price you pay for the digital age. But that doesn't mean that when you contract with a service that they have the right to take what you think, what you do, where you're going, and pass it out. And that's what's happening here. And that's an egregious violation of privacy. That really compromises the internet and its usefulness, and it shouldn't be allowed to stand.
I mean, isn't it so obvious that, you know, a firm like Bloomberg, who has access to this information of watching, you know, all of Wall Street and how long they're on the Bloomberg terminal and when they log in and when they log out and what they're talking about, isn't it so obvious that that should not be opened up to all the reporters?
But there's 2 components tied to that.
I'm sorry?
Sorry to hop in. There are 2 components that are tied to that. Assume, as Tom says, somewhere, any information you put into a computer, there is a gatekeeper who is looking at your information. What use they make of that information is really the concern that we both are echoing here today, and that should be negotiated between the 2 parties. Unlike Google, people who are using services of Bloomberg are into a contractual service and paying Bloomberg directly for the use of those services. It goes back to now the devil's in the details, and people need to review the agreements, the end-user licenses that they have with each of these companies. The other component that has to be raised is our governmental use of Bloomberg terminals and the information Bloomberg might have had access to, and their use of that information. By the time when I was at the SEC, we had access to a Bloomberg terminal, and there are reports now that various agencies have reached out to Bloomberg to try to understand how that information might have been used.
So what's the gray area then, Ron?
Well, the gray area is if there was no representation made by Bloomberg as the use of information, or, quite frankly, clarity that they can use the information internally and not disclose it. Now, there was a statement that was made early on in the segment that some of the information of the instant messages on Bloomberg have found their way to the internet. That's a 3rd level of concern of sharing that information with the public that hasn't fully been alleged here. It's saying that the information's been the basis possibly of some stories, and it's not clear how much has been passed alonghand to the public.
All right, gentlemen. Great analysis. We appreciate your time. We'll keep following this. Thanks so much. We will see you soon. Up next, a rumble over ratings. Senator Al Franken takes on ratings agencies Moody's and Standard & Poor's to change the way securities are rated. Does he stand a chance of putting the Goliaths in their place? Senator Al Franken will speak with me in a rare TV interview. That's next.